After leaving Zolder, a few drivers may be left to lick their wounds. It proved to be an incredible difficult circuit to master. But Imola should provide a somewhat similar challenge. It's a fast course split up by a series of chicanes. Will we see a similar result in the checkered flag? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch round 5 of the Porsche Owners Club Series. And you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is DJ Clark. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Crackers Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Also similar to last week's track, Imola is sadly mainly known for the death of Ayrton Senna. But there's much more history and lots to explore here. Let's head to our track guide to find out more. Welcome to the Autodromo Internazionale Enzo e Dino Ferrari, but most race fans know this place as simply Imola. This circuit in the northern part of Italy has seen some of the highest highs and lowest lows in motorsports history. The various tragedies that have marred the track left no choice but to alter it in the name of safety. While it originally featured mostly fast, sweeping corners, its modern 3-mile or 5-kilometer version is punctuated by tricky chicanes and incredibly technical turns. iRacing includes the Grand Prix layout and a moto version, which adds one more chicane to the front stretch. Tamburello is perhaps the most notorious of the corners for claiming the life of multi-time world champion Ayrton Senna when it was still a single breathtaking turn. Now the Triple Apexer not only offers potential passing opportunities, but catches out drivers quite frequently. While heavy braking zones are everywhere, because few places allow the cars to get up to speed, overtaking is generally seen as an exercise in frustration. As if to almost counteract this quality, the track itself is situated in a gorgeous public park and sends the drivers through the beautifully calming Italian countryside. It also includes a fair bit of elevation change in which the track is split between the higher up back half and the lower first portion. It's no wonder that this place still proves popular with drivers and fans in spite of its difficulties in history. The Tifosi keep returning each and every time the sound of engines roar among the trees, and who can blame them? Well, this track is obviously more closely associated with a certain Italian car manufacturer, but today we get to celebrate a German manufacturer here, DJ. What are they going to be like on this track?
Well, Joe, any car that decides to take on the fearsome curves of Imola is gonna have their handful. So let's start by looking at the RSRs, the GTEs. Now, the higher speeds in this car do come with added downforce. That means they're gonna be able to go through these corners quicker. That's going to help them specifically coming up at corners like Piratella, maybe even a little bit coming through Tamburello, that first corner, that first chicane rather. That's gonna be helpful to them, but at the same time, Imola is known for being a narrow circuit where it's very hard to get past, so there's not a lot of opportunity to overtake even with the higher downforce cars. Now, looking back to the GT4s, the slower speed and less aerodynamic could actually help the cars a little bit. It could help the drivers sort of control the circuit a little bit more, if you will. You have more time to think about how to set up for these corners. Most of them really are one-line corners. You can't really go too wide through there, so that ability for these drivers will be very, very helpful. But the biggest story in this race, it's going to be very similar to what we talked about last time out in Zolder, is going to be these GTEs dealing with the slower GT4 cars. These GT4 cars have got to have their heads on an absolute swivel. They've got to try to get past and let the GTE drivers past at the right points, or you can get into a real log jam very quickly.
I certainly anticipate that should be a bit of an issue, especially in the later parts of the race. But before we get to the race, we want to remind you that this series is brought to you by Porsche. There is no substitute. Find out more at Porsche.com. As well as Sunset Mortgage. Don't put your money in the bank, be the bank. Check them out today at sunsetcash.net. And Octavio Tequila. Celebrate now. For a great tasting tequila, go to octaviotequila.com and purchase today. And finally, Century Financial Consultants, making the rest of your life the best of your life. You can check out their website at centuryretire.com. Let's take a look at the championship and where we sit currently, starting with the GT1 class. This is the Porsche RSRs, the GTE cars. Now, Brian Salehi leads the way, and then behind him, things suddenly get really, really tight. Look at Framheim, Johnson, and Brown. 3 points between second, third, and fourth. A little bit of a jump back to Matthew Robinson, but we're very early in the season, so things could still change around quite quickly. DJ, we also have the GT2s. Why don't you run us down those?
Well, in those GT2 standings, Joe, there you can see Jerry Freckleton having a relatively commanding lead here. Jerry has put in just absolutely consistent result after consistent result, and that has gotten him a 21-point advantage over John Momeyer. Aaron Edwards sitting only 7 points back of Momeyer, and another 7 points back Tyler King is to Aaron Edwards. So that's a pretty tight competition. And oh, wait, it's still another 7 points back to Adam Fulton in fifth. So a good gap up to Freckleton, but that battle for second, pretty close across the board.
Should be fascinating to watch. And, well, today we're going to watch round 5. And out of a 24-round season, this goes on for the entire length of the year. There you see the two cars that they are able to drive. The Caymans are, the GT4s are the GT2 class, and then the 991 is the GT1 class. 45-minute open qualifying that they're in right now, just the last few minutes of it, actually. And then it is a 30-minute race that they will be competing in today. The setups are open, but they're a pretty close-knit group, so they don't tend to hold them too close to their chest and try to encourage each other to share and help one another out, since this is basically club-level racing amongst a lot of drivers that do know each other pretty well. Travis Brown holds the provisional pole position in the GT1s, and Mark Rondeau currently holding the provisional pole position in GT2 over Jerry Freckleton, who so far has been the class of the field there.
Yeah, Jerry has been very, very consistently up towards the top of the field, so he's a little bit surprising to see him back in second here to Rondeau. Rondeau, I don't believe we've seen him on pole this year as we watch Jerry Freckleton coming around there through those corners. Now, that's going to be a very interesting part of the track, as are some of the chicanes on the earlier part as well, because of the high sausage curbs on the inside. You really can't abuse track limits all that much here, although it's very easy to go wide right where Jerry's coming through right now through Ravazza 1 and 2.
Good news is we've got all but one who have a lap in, and the only one that's still waiting to try and put one down is Matthew Hollander, which, if I'm not mistaken, is Matthew, he usually runs GT1s, doesn't he? Because I see him down in the GT2s today in his Cayman. So I wonder if Matt has accidentally switched, which can happen here on the service, or if he's decided he wants to try and run the slower class for the remainder of the season. This is Ron Palmer on the screen right now, coming through Ravazza. And the number 29, his quickest is a 1:55.5. And considering the time that he's at now, I think this is a slow lap for him.
I think it is too, and I think he's got some damage on the front of that car, Joe. It may be the paint scheme, but that looks a little smushed up to me.
Yeah, that's the first thing I noticed as well. The 483, Eric Hagendick is coming down the line. He sits in second. He needs to make up just 2/10 and some change, which he's not going to do this time, sadly, to try and take over the pole. Instead, we glance back at third, also getting a good shot here, Corey Latvala. He's also got some ways to get up to the pole position, about half a second that he has to improve to get to the top spot, but only a 1/10 and a half to get into second place. Looks like that one's not going to be quicker. He's about a second off of his quickest.
Well, and one thing to keep in mind, Joe, as there goes Paul Newton getting a little too aggressive coming out of Ravazza 2 and ending up the outside wall, but we're going to watch Doug Baccignoni coming across the line on a slow lap. But because this is open qualifying, meaning all cars are out on the course at the same time, it's very easy to get held up, and that's why you're seeing some of these drivers have slower laps.
That's a good point, as we now have Aaron Edwards, one of our GT2 drivers, he takes his Cayman down to the line. His first timed lap was 1:54.6, and that was his fastest. This one appears to not count for him either. I believe Jerry Freckleton, second, is not going to take pole that time. Still 2/10 off of Rondeau, and he's starting to run out of opportunities. We've only got two